Hi everybody, Russ and My Hammers 11. Hope you are all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon so you're made aware of any time we put new content on. Particularly as we've got loads of new stuff coming up. We've obviously got the game shows for the charity game shows which run out this week. We've got the last one this week of the current series, and we've got a new series starting soon, hopefully. So make sure you hit the bell icon so you're made aware of any time that all comes out. Loads of good guests, loads of great fun we're going to have the next couple of weeks, that's for sure. Including today's guest, another one from across the pond. From our lovely American Hammers networks, all friends of the show. It's John Nolan. Hi, John. How are you doing, man?
Not too bad, Russ. Thank you, and thank you for having me on. And good to see you.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Just to hide behind, sort of reveal the fourth wall. It's taken me and John probably about 2-3 months to get this. But good things to come to those that wait, John. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's just we're both busy people, aren't we? We're busy people.
Yeah, life gets in the way, doesn't it?
It does. It's just ridiculous. That life gets in the way of talking about West Ham. But we can't. There's not much we can do about it. But how are you? How's things been the last few months? All the stuff that's gone on with the world and stuff over there.
Yeah, it's madness. I mean, for those that don't know me, I'm in the Philadelphia area, which was one of the probably worst hit parts of the country here. Up between New York City and Philadelphia was all pretty bad. So it was just kind of surreal, to be honest. And the whole thing was surreal. We've got like a testing center opened up within weeks, about a mile or two from my house. Everybody's walking around like in those ET costumes, fully suited with medical stuff and oxygen supply. And so been lucky to be able to avoid anything really bad. So I'm grateful for that. But it's just a very strange time to be alive. And of course, the Premier League just stopped and then restarted, and we're going to be some of the only people to ever witness something like that in their lifetime. I think the whole thing was just very odd.
Yeah, very very odd. But I think it was really important that the season got finished more than anything last season, because obviously it seemed to sort of, I don't know about over there, but particularly in the UK. When the football came back on, it just seemed to energise everyone a little bit. A little bit of normality, a little bit something new to moan about, rather than the R rate or whatever it is at the moment. Yeah. It was just a bit different. And obviously for the first game, West Ham fans probably wished it wasn't. It hadn't come back, as is the way of West Ham. But the boys did well. And then we kept it. It was a bit squeaky bum time, but that we could be safe with like a game to go. It was really, really sort of bizarre for West Ham. We sort of kick back at that Villa game and just sort of laugh at everyone else's predicaments apart from us. But I suppose it's the same with the States. Obviously, with the NBA and stuff like that. They had to get all the games in and had to put them in that bubble in wherever it was in Florida, and it just makes everything a bit easier when there's some live sport on, isn't there?
Yeah, I think, and it's still going that way. I mean, I know now they've got college football, college American football. Some of that is coming back. Some of the leagues opted out. Now they're opting back in, and I was really skeptical of the Premier League coming back, but they seem to have handled it pretty well. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of teams really missing star players and stuff like that we thought there could have been. So, I mean, as long as people are being responsible, it looks as if it's going fairly well. The only problem I have is, you're talking 3-4 months ago now, where people, frontline workers and healthcare workers, weren't able to get tests, but multi-millionaire sports stars were. But, I mean, they're probably also pumping a lot of money into the economy. Yeah. So it's a balance in it. I mean, like anything.
It is, and it's quite interesting because obviously. Amazon obviously do their all or nothing shows, which I loved. I used to love when they do the NFL ones. I thought it was fantastic every season. And obviously they've done the Tottenham one, haven't they? And that's been released. And the latest episodes have just been dropped with everything around COVID. And it's really interesting to see how they, because it started off like no one really knew what was going on, and this thing's coming up and we're not too sure what's going on. Yeah. Obviously, we know the story. It's very similar to All or Nothing. You know which team has won the Super Bowl, so these guys aren't going to make the playoffs. And it's the same thing. And just seeing like how they sort of responded, it was really interesting.
I've got to catch up. I think I'm on like episode 5 of that, but It is interesting, and God, I never thought I'd like Mourinho, but he comes across
Me
pretty well,
too.
doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He really, really does. And and it was quite funny. It always made me laugh, that sort of first image when he walks to the door, and I think they zoom in Harry Kane, and he just has this fear of dread on his face, and it's like, but yeah, but no, he does come across very well, I think, and it's quite interesting as well, you know. I mean, and also I just think what a wet wipe Dele Alli is. He's such a wet wipe. You know, literally,
Yeah.
they have like this conversation for about 2 minutes about toothpaste, and I'm there going, really? He's
There's not
like,
much
you know,
there, mate.
there's not much there. And I mean, end of the day, we all know that Dele Alli now puts water on his toothbrush, then puts the toothpaste on, and then puts water on again. Well done, Amazon. That's really, really useful stuff. Thank you very much. But
Yes, well,
yeah, exactly.
we'll find
Next,
out which way he puts the toilet roll around next episode.
yeah. And does he crunch it or does he sort of wrap it? Are you a cruncher or a wrapper, John? That's the question.
Oh, if I wrap first and then crunch. I don't know. Let's keep
You're
it interesting.
mental. You are mental. You are living la vida loca. But I mean, obviously, in the States, obviously, you know, you're used to having sort of all the Premier League on, yeah, every game, and now obviously we're getting it in the moment. It's really
Yeah.
fucking up my life at the moment because it's like, you know, bloody next week it's 7 o'clock on a Sunday. It's like, what is going on? You know what I mean? And particularly for you guys as well, you know, all over the place, particularly the Saturday games. Saturday games probably not so bad for you actually because, you know, 5 hours behind and it's almost like a 3 o'clock kickoff.
Honestly, it's great because at least with a traditional 3 o'clock, that's 10 in the morning here.
Yeah,
So it's better for my health because I'm trying not to go down the pub at 10 in the morning,
yeah.
and I still have the rest of the day to do stuff. But now I don't know how the West Coast guys do. I don't know how
No.
we had one American Hammer out in Hawaii as well. And what are they? They're like 7-8 hours behind. I don't know how they do it. I mean, some of their stuff is like 4 in the morning, but
Mental.
and that's you're questioning whether or not to go to bed and get back up or just stay up from the night before when it goes to those hours. So,
Yeah.
but on the East Coast, it ain't too bad.
No, and then obviously, you know, what I really like is obviously I've interviewed lots of the American Hammers guys, and you know, you've all got your own pubs and stuff in your towns, and obviously the Philly pub and stuff like that, and it's just great. It's something which I think is really, that's why I quite like doing this channel, because it's opening up all these sort of things which people never even thought about, you know. And it's like, I mean, myself, you know, I spent a lot of time in the, particularly, was it, yeah, about last year on the East Coast, and so New Jersey. I was based in New Jersey for like, bless it, Elizabeth in New Jersey, lovely place,
know
not
well. Yep.
yeah, lovely place, not and yeah, you do, you know. Unfortunately, if I was doing this series then, it'd been great because like some nights I was there twiddling my thumbs. I like, pat my Xbox and was playing FIFA. I could have gone upstate and seen David, or come down to see you. I mean, I was in Philly almost like every other day, and so it's bloody annoying. So I could have had some really good drink ups, but hey, but that's what I love about this. You've all got your little pocket of fans based on sort of where you're from, but you've got this amazing Hammers network, and it's just really, really, really good. And obviously, you had the quiz, didn't you? You did well the quiz, didn't you? With the
Yeah.
old. You won the quiz, didn't you?
I won the hammer shots. Yeah, I still don't know how because Tom is very knowledgeable,
Yeah, but
especially
Tom's
for his age as well. I
yeah,
gotta
but
tell you.
Tom is shit though, because it's like when I had Tom on the game show, and he'll be watching this because you're on it. And he was shit, you know. He just like, it was like bloody, you know. I had to explain the game, and oh dear, yeah. I think after you'd beaten him, John, I think he sort of like powers had drained out of his body, and he was just rubbish, you know. I think he barely got a point on the. It wasn't like his. I mean, yeah, it wasn't like an Adam quiz. It was more sort of fun, but still, he didn't manage to do it. But no, they're good fun, and yeah, I'm obviously, you know, I like in a really random twist of like serendipitous fate. I used to go to school with Adam.
Oh,
And
did you?
yeah, and so now he's in Dallas, and I'm over
Yeah.
it. Loves to, yeah, he was in the year below me, so oh, I love it, and it's just one of these weird nuances. And it must be the same with you when you sort of go to somewhere else in the world, or someone else in the US, for example, and you know people already in that area because of the West Ham Hammers network. It must be lovely.
Yeah, I've only been doing stuff on the show there probably about a year.
Yeah.
So it's always been a part of my life that I think was missing because West Ham meant so much to me. It still does. Meant so much to me when I'm back home, and just you can go anywhere in England and talk to anybody about football, and that was always a piece of my life that was missing over here. Because you can't walk into any American pub or bar and start talking about West Ham and expect that the other person knows what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, that was really what drove me into starting to get on with these guys, and having a show, Friday Night Likes, and just jumping in and just talking about West Ham. It's like my version of going to the pub is now
yeah,
online, so I'll sit back, have a beer or two, and get to talk football. And you could do that with American football, you could do it with basketball, you could do it with any of that stuff over here. But football, as much as it's grown, and it has, it's getting much, much bigger. Still difficult to walk into a pub and kind
yeah.
of sit down and have a good chat about what's going on in the game. So that's a major benefit for me. And like you said, having all these guys in different places, you always know that there's going to be somewhere to meet up,
Yeah.
someone to go see. I was down in DC. I met the DC Irons down there. We jumped into their pub and
Awesome.
watched the match. Watched the match with them before all the COVID stuff. I think earlier in the year. So just somewhere to go, isn't it? I mean, West
Brilliant,
Ham's
isn't it?
family anyway.
It
So
isn't it? But doing this, doing these things and talking to more guys like yourselves and I don't know the Indian Hammers and the Scandinavian Hammers, and you don't realise how much of a fan base West Ham has outside of Essex. Really, it's in
we're
London to
everywhere.
be fair.
We're
Yeah,
everywhere. You'll
everywhere.
always bump into somebody in a West Ham shirt. Always.
You always
Wherever you
strike a
go.
and you always strike a conversation, and it's not, and it's like, and I've always said we've been social distancing for years because we sit, you'll see someone in another shirt, in a West Ham shirt, you go orange, orange, and come on, you orange, come on, you orange, and you do that, and you won't shake hands, you won't bump fists, you won't need to do the elbows, you won't do nothing, and it's a lovely thing. I literally on holiday, my wife hates it, but literally my whole suitcase is full of West Ham shirts because as you said, you bump into someone or
Yeah.
even someone who's not a West Ham fan, but they might live in, I don't know, I might be on holiday in Dubai or whatever, or and because something about West Ham that it is like still a lot of people's second team, so they come up to you
Yeah.
and start talking. Oh, West Ham, oh, Cotley, oh, and you go, yeah, I am. Anyway, where's the bar?
Yeah.
But but that's what I love about them. So you said, so obviously, John, you mentioned obviously, we know you've. For those of you who don't know, obviously, John was over, came, he was on these fair shores and then moved across a while ago. Why is West Ham your team before you went over type thing?
Yeah, so I'm not from East London, as you might be able to tell from the accent
Yeah,
anyway. But I'm from Swindon originally, so about an hour west of London for the
yeah,
for the Americans tuning in, and probably about 2 hours west of East London. Really, we used to go into Hammersmith. It was, my dad was a West Ham supporter, and that's why I'm West Ham. So we always had family in London. We were up there constantly. My mum's side of the family, even though we're all Irish, they all settled in Hammersmith. So we would use that as kind of a landing base, and then jump on the tube there and go across London to East Ham, where more of my dad's family side is kind of from around there. I know his uncle was Canary Wharf area, and then it's just, yeah, I suppose it's just blood really. He got me in. I think my first match was West Ham versus Charlton. Must have been like 91, 92. Remember, we were ground sharing or Charlton was ground sharing with
yeah,
us. So I was about 6 or 7 at the time, and that was it. There was no looking back. I just went
yeah.
in, and I mean, you've seen that video of that kid walking into the stadium. His dad shows him. He walks up the steps and then just starts crying at the whole experience. I mean, I was close to that, just wasn't recorded. Like
Yeah, yeah.
we sat in the we didn't sit. We stood in the old North Bank, and just walking out to that. I'm getting chills just even saying the words, but
It's
walking
true.
out
Yeah,
to that
it's
kind
true.
of crowd,
It's so true. Yeah,
and that feeling and just the electricity in the air.
yeah,
That was it. It was. I mean, we lost the game 1-0, and and still it didn't matter. It didn't matter. That was it. That was my team. That was everything. Because I always loved football. Always loved playing, talking about it, and then just going to like a proper match and taking it all in. That was it. And then we
yeah,
just we
yeah.
just kept doing it. We had, me and my dad, we had traditions and got to Upton Park when we can, being based in Swindon, especially when we were down in like Division 2. There were plenty of clubs within arm's reach. We go to
Yeah.
away days. So, we've done Villa, Coventry, Southampton, Oxford. I think I saw Dixie get sent off at Oxford for something reckless back in the day. Yeah, I don't know. Just loved it. Just loved the whole feeling, everything.
And obviously, having lost the first game, you sort of set yourself on the right path for being a West
That's
Ham
it, and
fan,
that's
really.
what he told me. He said, "Listen, everybody in the family, they've all, I think, all of their first games West Ham lost, so you better get used to it." But that's what it
It's
was.
so
So,
it's so true. But what's
yeah,
interesting is even though you sort of you went on as you were talking about it, your eyes lit up because you were talking about the experience and da da da, and sort of as a footnote. Oh, and we lost 1-0. That was like it wasn't about the game. It wasn't about the
no,
result.
didn't
It's about the
matter.
experience. It's about the experience, isn't it? And being there with your dad and stuff like that. It's all memories, isn't it? And I think that's what I think people lose at the moment now. Is obviously it's great the fact that we can watch every game. Everyone can watch every game on the telly. They can switch in the UK. They can switch on the crowd noise if they want to. But it's that experience. It's that sort
It is.
of don't know what as you said, that tingling, as you said when when you were talking about it. I did get chills because you can just
And
takes
it
you straight
builds, doesn't it,
back.
Russ? It
Yeah.
builds. So, I mean, especially for me, so we'd have a 1 hour car ride up to Hammersmith, right? And it builds, starting from the moment that you leave your front door and lock the door. You get in the car, you see family, the anticipation's building, see
Yeah.
family that's in Hammersmith, then you make the walk down to the tube. And for me, going across London, right, you'd start seeing all the parents and all their kids going to football matches of different shirt colours. On the tube across London, right, you get your Reds for Arsenal, they're going that way. You get Blues in Chelsea and West London, QPR, stuff like that. And you could just, it would start turning claret and blue, and it just starts building and building and building. And it was just such a cool thing to take in on match day, was
Yeah.
seeing all these families doing the same thing. They've all got their own clubs. They're all going to their church for the day, right? And we're going to ours, and it just kept building and building and building. You build in the time. You're there a few hours before. We used to go and get a program. We'd go get pie and mash. We'd go to the bowling. I get snuck a couple of shandies down at the bowling when I was young, and just everything. You get off the tube, walking across the stairs, and the smells of burgers and fags and
Yeah.
everything, the street food, and just a whole lot. Just a
Yeah.
whole lot. I miss it like anything.
Yeah, particularly, I mean, from Hammersmith, fucking hell, from Hammersmith all the way to Upton Park, that is a long, and it's a district line, ain't a quick tube, is it? Ain't a quick ride. So, yeah, no, I can get that, but that must be, yeah, you can just see, but obviously the difficulty is then if you've lost, is you've got to go all the way back again as well. It's a
That a
bit of
few
a trek
times,
to
yeah.
go. Yeah, more often than not, that's the case. But it is, and I think that's what people miss now is that sort of the sensory stuff around football. It's not necessarily seeing it, but it's now it's good that it's back, and it's good that people can go and watch it, on the tellies and stuff. But the sooner fans can get back in the games, the better. I think just because you people, not only I think the fans miss it, but I think the players miss that sort of that interaction that
Oh, sure.
yeah, although some players obviously maybe not because they might have certain players on their back, so it might be a. But no, we'll see what it is, and we've got big cup game on Tuesday, Magic of the Cup. We'll see what happens with that with
Should be all right.
against Hull. Yeah,
Should be
yeah,
all right.
we'll be all right. And then Everton or Fleetwood next round. So
Hopefully, Fleetwood Everton look
yeah,
pretty tasty this season, don't they?
yeah, that cup run was nice while it lasted, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was
Once
yeah,
we
I
know
thought,
enough, maybe we would prefer Everton. Who knows?
yeah, well, exactly, yeah, exactly. Well, after Saturday's game, yeah, I mean it was yeah, gutting yesterday, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, we get used to it, don't we? We get used to it. It's the hope that kills us, Johnny. It's the hope that kills us. We better say,
Always.
unfortunately. But I was reading that Arsenal have never lost a game in September in the Premier League or something like that since like early 2000s or something
Is that
ridiculous
right?
like that. Yeah, so
God.
yeah, I never even knew that. Right, so obviously we found the origin story. Now we want to do the 11, so the Hammers 11. So
Right.
the idea being is you pick the players. You can pick anyone you want, but the only rule is you have to be alive to have seen them play. And obviously from sort of early 90s onwards, basically. So it's not a bad spread, very similar to my spread, to be honest, John. The only reason is so not everyone picks the same people because everyone would pick the same. If you said what's your 11, everyone would probably pick Phil Parks and Bobby Moore, the stories your dad must have told you about these players and stuff. So that's why we put that little caveat in, and it means we've had over 200 different players have come up, and gives some of the Hayden Mullenses of this world a time to shine, which is I think is important. But you can pick whoever you want. Doesn't matter. It doesn't be the favourite. It could be the best. It could be the worst. It doesn't really matter, John. It's up to you, man. So I'm not even fussed with what formation you pick now. I'm just getting soft in my old age, I think, more than anything. So let's start with goalie. Who's in goal for the Nolan 11?
So I took your question and I tried to come up with a criteria similar to what Jim Kearns has said. I watched his episode on the show.
Yeah.
I think for me, I wanted to stick to legends and leaders is what I'm calling it. So my number one is Ludo, and I think that's probably for quite obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Great player, big, physical, has a song about him. There's not too many keepers you get that about.
No, good.
And obviously, I think he was the first goalkeeper from when I started watching West Ham anyway. And just a great all-round keeper. I mean, some really standout games. Those ones against Man United, I think everybody remember, but just provided so many great memories and just a quality goalkeeper.
Because your sort of reference point is very similar to mine, John. He seemed to be goalkeeper for us forever, always. Forever. He was always in goal. Do you know what I mean? It's like in my early memories, all I can remember is Ludo being in goal, and I think then he left, and we was like a little bit sort of scrabbling around, really. I think then because we had a few loanees and stuff like that. After that, we got a bit better with Greeno and David James and people like that. But he just seemed to be in goal forever. Ludo did, and a lovely bloke and a colossus of a man. And when he was on it, he was on it. You know what I mean? It's like he would. He
changed games.
Yeah, I mean he epitomised West Ham because West Ham, he could have some stinkers. My granddad called him Loopy Ludo, and that's what he used to call it. But he'd have those games where he was world class, and it was always when you play United or a top team, he'd always pull one out of the bag, and you're thinking, "Fuck, where was that? Where was that against Bolton last week or something like that?" But it's just like West Ham in general. That's like yesterday. That team performance again compared to Newcastle was chalk and cheese, and it's like. Yeah. But you knew it was going to come. And that's what I love about being a West Ham fan, that's what I love about Ludo because he was just that type of player. Right, pardon me. So Ludo is in goal, John. You go through the team as you want to.
Sure, I'm playing three at the back, and again, legends and leaders. So, and forgive me, I've got my notes written here, so I can remember who I want in the team. Right back, I'm going with Stevie Potts, and I know that obviously I don't think he played right back the entire time he was at West Ham. I think that he was probably a player that was played out of position a lot, but he would make a very good right back.
Yeah.
Hammer of the year at least twice, I think. Former captain. He was just always there when he was reliable, dependable. I imagine a very good person to have in the back room. Just knows what they're doing, and just an ever present. And again, one of those early memories of when I was a kid and watching him play, and just a great player.
Yeah, he was, and it's great that obviously he's in the under-23 setup as a coach, and he was just a nice bloke as well. It's like sometimes they're just nice blokes as well, and Stevie is a nice bloke. So we're trying to get him on. We're trying to get him on the show. I've got people out there. I've got a few spies to try and get him in. Coming from various angles, but I think everyone would love to hear from him. So, but yeah, Stevie's in. Stevie Potts, God bless him. And as you said, probably was. I think Stevie Potts became a better player when he was playing centre back because Tim Breaker came in and he didn't have to play right back, but he could. And he'd have a bloody good go, wouldn't he? He'd have a bloody good go at right back, but he was more of a centre back, and he shouldn't have been a good centre back. He was only like 5'8" or something like that.
Yeah.
But just read the game so well. Right, Stevie P is in. Who is next, John?
In the middle, I'll have Rio, and I think again that's another one that probably goes without saying. I mean, just a spectacular talent. Brings the memories back from that time where it just seemed like we were churning out talent. Not even year after year, it was month after month at that point. The excitement, I remember my dad, West Ham must have had a friendly in Swindon, and I think he must have gone to that and he just raved about this kid and said, he's the future. And Rio was probably about 15 or 16 at the time.
Wow.
And that was it. Just kept an eye out on him from there ever since. And I mean, didn't he? I mean, he was the future. He got to be the best centre back in the world. Really shocking that we let him go, but that's West Ham as well, unfortunately. But just to have him in the first place, I think we have to be very thankful. I mean, a player that could put in those kind of performances, that was so comfortable on the ball and played the West Ham way. I mean, he epitomised some of that, passing out from the back, bringing the ball out. And he had a couple of stinkers as well. When he was off, he was off. But for the age of him and the ability that he had, very few can match him. He was fantastic.
Yeah, he was. He was just phenomenal, wasn't he? And he was one of those players. Unfortunately, as you said, it was that era where they sort of turned up and you're thinking, oh, he's a great player. How many games is he going to play for us before he fucks off? Just knew it, unfortunately. But that was, as you said, that was us. And obviously, when we interviewed H, he said that he's adamant that if we'd kept them lot, we'd have won the league. And I don't blame him. I totally agree with him. I think it's just unfortunate. You see, it's not a sliding doors moment, but sort of selling Rio then sort of made us into a selling club, really, didn't it? And it was like, he's churning these guys out, and we knew they weren't going to stay more than a few seasons before they went away. And it was a shame, but as you said, we had some great. And I think with Rio, he speaks so well of the club. Obviously,
yeah.
Rio. Then you got Anton and people like that, and he's a top bloke. Big fan of Rio. All right, Mr. Ferdinand is in. Who is next, Miss Nolan?
On the left side, so be no surprise to anybody around my age, Dixie.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you have to say about Dix? I mean, he epitomised everything that was West Ham. He was hardworking, very underrated for a left back. Had a thunder of a left foot, amazing penalty taker, amazing free ball kicker. I mean, he had everything.
Yeah.
And all the same while, he was an absolute nutcase. I mean, you never knew what you were going to get, but that was exciting. It was, these days, could you imagine somebody being sent off for West Ham and getting a round of applause? I mean, we used to clap Julian Dix for getting sent off because he was such a nutcase. And it was just all part of what made watching West Ham special. You never knew what you were going to get. It was always going to be an exciting time, and he was one of those reasons. I mean, just a fantastic player.
He was.
I don't know. I absolutely loved him. I loved him. I still wear the number 3 for my own six-a-side these days because of Dixie. Yeah, loved him.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, it's true, and you're right. He's just like, but I think he's one of those players who's outside of West Ham. I don't think people appreciated him in sort of like the wider football community. We knew, unfortunately his reputation went before him outside of West Ham, but we knew he had this wand of a left foot and was the absolutely exceptionally gifted football player, but he did have that side of him, didn't he? And I think, as you said, he's like, he's from left back or left of free as you're playing. He could just like whip a crowd up, and left back. I haven't got the same feeling with Aaron Cresswell. I don't think Aaron Cresswell, bless him, could put in a crunching tackle and get 60,000 people up on their feet, but Julian couldn't he? And it might have been a 35-yard ping, like he always used to do his penalties or a crunching tackle, and he just got West Ham, and he didn't look like these sort of uber. He didn't like Cristiano Ronaldo, or he wasn't like he wasn't a chiseled body. He looked like a guy that you could go for a pint with, and I think also that's why I think people liked him because he was quite relatable.
You saw some of yourself in him for sure, and
totally.
and he was Jekyll and Hyde as well, because for every crunching tackle there was that little bit of class to flick the ball around the corner or lay somebody on, or like you said, ping a ball 35 yards. He had both sides of his game, and that was also in kind of maybe the end of the hard men era as well, where you had the Keanes and Vinnie Joneses of the world. and he made them all crap themselves. I mean, he was the hardest of all of them. Steve Bull, I don't think he wasn't coming up to Dixie like that either. So, we just, he was our enforcer, he was our captain, and he was a magician at the same time. He had a bit of everything. He was just great to watch.
Yeah, he was. All right, Julian's in. Who's next? Who's next then, John?
Let me go to the notes. So I've gone three at the back, so I'll move into the midfield. Defensive midfielder number one, controversial perhaps, Michael Carrick. And I think Michael Carrick is probably one of the most underrated players, not just for West Ham, but in his entire
Definitely.
career. Um, he made things look too simple. And that's probably why he's underrated. He did
Yeah.
all the simple things and kept the ball churning over, organized his team, didn't make anything look flash. Scholes is probably a similar type as well for doing stuff like that. But Michael Carrick is, I think, one of the best footballers that we've ever produced.
Oh, definitely.
One of the best footballers England's ever produced, and criminally underrated. Just a great player. Again, everything in his locker: short passes, long passes, leadership skills. And unfortunately, I think Man United probably saw more of that than we did. Although I think he probably played around 150 or more games for us.
Must
So
have done, yeah.
we got a good amount out of him. If I'm right, I think he stuck with us after that relegation that we had.
Yep.
And just proud again of some of the players we produced in that era. And he's the top of the top, I think, of that flock of players that we produce. So
Yeah,
character.
yeah. And you're right, he gets sort of left out in the wash, I think, when you talk about that sort of golden generation, because it is Rio, it is Joe, it is Frank, and then Michael. You know, he's always fourth when people talk about it, seems. And I think it's you're right, I think because he made the game seem simple. And, every team he's gone to, every team he's then left, they haven't been able to replace him.
Yeah.
West Ham, we never really replaced him. Spurs never really replaced him. Man United never really replaced him. And it's criminal he didn't get as many England caps as he should have. But I just think he was just a classy player. Old school classy, very sort of
Yeah.
Martin Peters, Trevor Brooking type class about him, and that might have been why. Maybe he looked more because he wasn't maybe slightly more old fashioned in terms of how he played, maybe. But he always seemed to have time in the ball, never seemed to be hurried off the ball. He wasn't particularly quick, but he just knew what he was doing, like almost like a chess player, two steps ahead. And no, great
Ross,
player.
he was either old school or he was 20 years ahead of his time. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can
yeah,
see
yeah,
him slotting into that Declan Rice role today
yeah,
seamlessly.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, even when he was starting his career, that's what teams are on the lookout for, is that type of player now.
Definitely,
So
definitely. No, you're totally right. Right, okay. Carrick is in. Who is next, John?
sorry, the dogs are going.
Don't be
I
silly.
don't know if you can hear them. I'll pair him in the middle with Scotty Parker
Yeah,
and another leader. I mean, Avram Grant's season, Scott Parker was probably the only one actually giving speeches that made any sense or G'd up the boys at all. Just a great player. I will always have his 360-degree turn emblazoned in my
yeah,
memory. And some of the goals from outside the box that he scored, I think we forget pretty quickly how good he was at striking the ball. Didn't get a whole of a lot of goals, but the goals that he did get, I think, were all stunners, and were all probably at times where we needed a lift. So I can't think of too many players that came out of that season in particular that could hold their heads up particularly high, but he's one of them. I mean, fantastic
yeah.
player.
And he was, and the ironic thing was about Scott Parker is he was always mentioned in dispatches as Captain Scott Parker, but it was Matthew Upson was the captain,
Yeah.
and so he just went AWOL, and no, he was brilliant, wasn't he? And it really, I get really annoyed when people don't put Scott Parker in, like, not the legend space, but in that sort of high echelon of West Ham player because of what happened afterwards. And the fact that he went to Tottenham and stuff, and it's like, fuck's sake, guys. He literally, I remember seeing him after the games, and he could barely walk sometimes. He had to crawl off the pitch sometimes. He'd put so much effort in. To be honest, he was in a shit team, and he'd kept us up on his own really for 2 years, to be honest. Obviously, the third year wasn't. He was one hammer of the year 3 years in a row. There's not many people who have done that.
Yeah.
It's like there's only a couple of people who are sort of well famous within West Ham fraternity, but and the fact that he went to Tottenham just to better his career, and his dad had just passed or whatever, and his dad was a Tottenham fan. It's like, well, you can't vilify the man for doing
No,
that.
you can't.
You know
I
what
mean, and he had just got in the England team as well, and
yeah,
want to keep that position. So he gave us enough. I'll say that much. I mean,
yeah.
he definitely gave West Ham enough, and
Oh God,
you
yeah.
know, his commitment, like you said, I think was second to none. So no hard feelings from me.
No, me neither. Particularly, because it also, you look at people that we revere at West Ham, and we revere, the Martin Peters and the Bobby Moores of this world. Martin Peters left for Tottenham, and Bobby Moore was gonna, but he was gonna go Tottenham or Arsenal. So and he's got a fucking stand named after him. You know what I mean? So it's like you can't pick and choose based on I'll get off my soapbox. When Scott Parker comes back as our manager, that'd be interesting to mention. Right, okay, Scott Parker. Who's next, John?
Right wing, Trevor Sinclair.
Oh, tricky Trev. Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. just a great player. I think a lot of people, especially not West Ham fans, will probably remember Sinclair for that worldy overhead kick he had for QPR.
Yeah.
But I remember him, that ball over to Di Canio for the goal. I mean, on a sixpence, and he had that. Again, another player that just had so much in his locker. Was tricky, great down the wing, great pace, great partnership with Di Canio. Broke into the England team at just the right time. I think we were so happy to have a West Ham player. That was France '98, wasn't it? Going off to
2002.
Was it
in Japan? Yeah.
So just so overjoyed for him that he did that, because we saw what he could do week in, week out, and he seemed to be, it didn't seem like the England management saw what we saw, but we saw so much of that. He was just such a consistent performer, great player, like I said, skills, got a good amount of goals as well, chipped in with a lot, and just a good player. I don't know if we've ever had a winger like him since who could cross it and score and do all of those things.
Not
maybe
really.
Etherington was close, but not the same caliber, I don't think.
But then I think also, I if anything, I'd probably put Trev more in line with Antonio, particularly now at the moment. In that, I think Trev played left wing for us. He played right wing for us. Played right wing back. He played up front as well. And every game you knew he'd put it in. You would not criticise his effort. And I think I see parallels to Antonio in that it doesn't matter what position. Obviously when Slav put him right back, he would play. He was actually playing bloody Carl Jenkins in that the team, who was a right back. And it's just like. And I think with that with Trev as well, and he was there for 5 years. Obviously we've interviewed him very very recently. Absolute top bloke, and yeah, I just think he's great. I just thought he was, and I told him stories. I always tell everyone when they pick Trev. My granddad, bless him, God rest God rest his soul. His eyesight was going when we went, and anything that was done by a player at West Ham who was black was Trevor Sinclair. It could have been Shaka might have done a save, and he'll go, "Oh, there we go, Sinclair, only bloody player they've got." And it was so true. But I thought it was great. And by all his accounts, West Ham was the time he probably enjoyed his football the most. That's what he said. That was his own words. And yeah, I mean, we under sort of that period, West Ham was the most successful in the Premier League era. Really, we finished 5th. We won the Intertoto Cup.
Yeah.
I think we had like we were 7th as well, and obviously Di Canio, and it was just brilliant. And Trevor was a massive part of that. And yeah, love him. And because you picked him, we'll get a retweet. Hooray! We'll get a like and a retweet from Trev. So that's all good. That's all good for the stats, right? Okay, who's next then, John?
I'll swing over to the other side with left wing. That's Dimmy. It's got to be Payet.
Yeah,
Um, I know a lot of West Ham fans just can't stand him because of the way he left and the circumstances, but he's the only player I've ever experienced at West Ham
yeah,
in my lifetime that could walk into any other team on the planet.
totally.
And I don't know if I'll ever see that again. And
No.
just for that alone, I mean, he was just incredible, incredible. I've never seen anything like it. Di Canio's probably the closest thing, and I
Mm,
love Paolo. But Dimitri Payet, when you talk world class, I mean, he's a top three player in the world when he was at West Ham.
yeah.
Me and my wife, we honeymooned in Paris when the Euros were going, and even just watching what joy he brought to the French people during that tournament,
Sure.
and to be able to look at it and go, he's ours. I mean, even
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
just
totally.
brought me a tremendous pride, even though I wasn't speaking to anybody about it. I was just on the inside. I'm like, he's one of us. He's ours. And it
Yeah.
was just surreal to have somebody that good. I mean, I don't even need to mention the goals. I mean, incredible. Free kicks, goal to dribbling from the halfway line against Middlesbrough, even when, there apparently was other stuff going on behind the scenes or whatever, half a foot out the door. I don't think his commitment was ever questioned,
Yeah.
but just an incredible talent. I've never seen anything like it. I hope we get to see something like that again.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, you're right though. He was the man, and he was, all my mates who are not West Ham fans wanted him in their team, and I don't remember that ever happening in my life. Maybe once,
Yeah.
maybe someone wants, I don't know, Fabianski or something, but not like everyone wanted. And I remember really clearly, and it was funny. Someone reminded me the other day. Actually, we was in. It was those Euros actually, and I was in Atlanta, and we'd got up at silly o'clock because we had a meeting in town. We had a meeting, and so we went to found a little Irish pub, and I must have a West Ham pin badge or something like that. It was a France game, and some guy came up to me and went, "Hey, well done," and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, Pike, yeah, that was all me. It's all me. I was instrumental in that transfer from Marseille." But it was just true, and you had this sense of pride because not only was this guy performing in the Premier League, but he was performing at the international stage, and that never happens at West Ham. Like someone performs to that ability and was the man, and yeah, I would love I'd love it to happen again, but I don't think in my lifetime. You
It,
never know. You never know.
well, I can only imagine that's got to be. It's got to be how that generation that had Bobby and
Yeah,
Martin Peters and them.
good point.
It's going to be something similar, or even Trevor Brooking. Just the class of the player, that caliber. Um,
That's a good point.
I,
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, I hope it comes back because even though it was a short 2 years, and you couldn't write a better story
No.
for the last season at the Boleyn either
No.
to have him and the way all of that happened. We were in every game. It didn't matter if we were losing. We were in every game because we had
Yeah.
Dimitri Payet.
So
There was
true.
always a way out. There was always a way to win or at least scrape back. Just it almost got boring winning games that season, Russ. It was almost like you're so shell shocked as a West Ham supporter walking in with confidence to a game. I didn't know what that was, um,
So
and
true.
he did that.
Yeah, I mean that whole season, wasn't it? It's like anyone who turned up, you fancied you were going to give him a game, and he said because he was on there, and when we had like a free kick anywhere 30 yards away from goal, you're thinking, here we go, it's going in. It's
Yeah.
like, what? It's really? Yes, because he can. He can do things that I don't think were scientifically possible with a ball. So obviously Ronaldo had that knuckleball, didn't he? Where he used to hit the ball and it used to just do this weird thing and bemused David James. I remember famously once. But and Dimmy did it with sort of that Crystal Palace game, and
That one
obviously,
against Palace, I
yeah,
didn't even believe it went in. I'm
no,
watching it on TV, and it went up on the screen and said goal. I was like, that was a goal. I mean, the,
yeah,
the physics didn't seem correct when you
no.
looked at it. It's like that was impossible what just happened.
Yeah, absolutely
Ridiculous.
mental. Yeah, no, big fan of Dimmy. Yeah, technically the best player I've ever seen in a claret and blue shirt. That's for sure. Not the best player, but technically the best player. In my opinion. Right, Dimmy's in. Who's next then? Jump.
Center attacking mid, and I'm going to go with Bish. on that one.
Oh, Bish,
Um,
see, you're racking in the retweets because Bish is going to give it a retweet now. Good
He's a
old
friend
Bish.
of Friday Night Lights too. We had him on the show, and
Yes.
he's what a
Top
great
guy.
bloke. So down to earth.
Yeah.
Um, but what a player Ian
Yeah.
Bishop was. I mean, he can bring the ball into feet. His distribution was incredible. His vision. He was always seemed 1 or 2 steps ahead of everybody else around him. Chipped in with a lot of goals, but just I would say he was like he was the mold of what a West Ham attacking midfielder should be in the
Yes.
90s. And I'll say it was probably a tough call. You had Bish, Benayoun was around. Um, oh God, who was the other Israeli that we had? I'm slipping on the name. Um,
Berkovic.
Berkovic. So the three of them were very similar players, and we always seemed to be able to. They didn't play at the same time, but when Bish retired, we would slot in with another one, and then we slotted in behind that. I think it was Berkovic and then Benayoun after, right? I think that was the order. But that was we needed that type of player at West Ham.
Yeah.
That was what West Ham was. That's what our midfield looked like. And I think when that pipeline dried up, we became a very different team.
Yes.
Um, I don't think we had players that were of that ilk for
No.
a long time after, and it really, I think it changed us in a lot of ways. I think just who we were, our identity, the way we
Mm.
played football, the way that we attacked, the West Ham way. I think that may have been some of the end of that type of pass in football,
Mm.
intelligent player legacy that we need to get back to. So I see Bish as the prototype for what that is in the 90s for West
Yeah.
Ham, and it was just a great player to watch.
Yeah, he was. And as you said, like you've had him on the show, just like a top bloke, just like the most down to earth person you're ever likely to talk to,
Yeah.
who was a professional football player, and he just him and we interviewed Johnny Monks and. He was saying it with him and Bish. Obviously, they were in sort of the centre partnerships together, and he said, there was a period, 2 or 3 years, where we didn't care who we were playing. We were gonna have a go against them. It could have been Vieira and Petit. It could have been Roy Keane. It could have been anyone, and we'd have a go. And it might be me giving them a clump. It might have been Bish giving them a clump,
Mm.
and we would have played. And you got that, and you could so see that just the confidence that they had. And not arrogance, but it was more confidence. They were confident in their abilities, and and obviously all the stories and that whole that was the last sort of decent. I think that that generation there was so many characters at West Ham and in the playing staff, not just them, but Mad Dog and
Yeah.
it's just such like fun time to be a West Ham fan because it's entertaining, wasn't it? People have often said sometimes West Ham has been a bit of a chore to go and see, and not that time, because as you said, you had Julian, you didn't know if Julian was going to get sent off that week, or Monks, how long was he before he got a yellow card, or and it's just it was entertainment more than anything, and it was a great period to be a West Ham fan. That was for sure.
It was. My dad always used to say, never a dull game down at Upton Park. And I think a lot
No,
of people used to say that. And it was so
yeah,
true because something would always happen, either goals or sendings off, or just there was always going to be an entertaining game. And I think that's part of our DNA when, you know, we don't really care as much about winning as much as we do about putting on a good show and just having that entertainment. That certainly was true back then. I think things may have changed a bit now and stakes are a bit higher these days, but that was certainly true back then.
yeah, definitely. Right, Bish Bosh is in. Who's next? Who's
Going
next
into the
then, John?
strikers, so Paolo, Paolo's got to be.
Yeah,
He's got to be. Just like I said, most talented, bar Dimitri Payet, probably the most talented player I've seen at West Ham. Somebody who gets you on your feet. Controversial, which we love at West Ham. Everything from the way he signed, you know, pushing the ref down at Sheffield Wednesday, Harry doing a wheel deal to get him over. He had to serve a bit of a ban before he could start playing, down to is he going to show up at away games that week, or at least that rumor that he never did. there was always something going on.
Yeah.
And you hear Harry's stories about him as well that he's had in the press, and just the kind of character he was. Complete nutcase, but also down the training pitch for 2 hours after everybody's already
Oh,
finished. Perfectionist. A great player, an absolute great player, and probably also criminally underrated in his home country as well. I mean, that was back when Italy wouldn't really select anybody that didn't play
no.
in Italy to play for him, and he certainly had the performances, I think, at West Ham, um, to earn a regular spot in their national team. He was just an incredible talent,
It
and
was.
yeah, man is a box of frogs, but loved him, childhood idol.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. And I mean, you're right. He was one of those players who, you'd pay your season ticket just to see him, just because he just brought so much. When people talk about Paolo, you have to smile because you just think of all the entertainment he brought. You could talk about 50 games, 50 different incidents about Paolo, and there's 50 different stories. Everyone who's picked Paolo has a story, or when they've met him, or it's just he's led this myth, isn't he? Like he's just like an enigma. He's just like he's just Paolo, and
He's
even the
been a
fact.
person.
Exactly. I mean, even just like the fact that he did like the Imperial leather adverts and stuff like that, and it's like that's just so Paolo, and stories. We've had people on the channel who have gone to Chadwell Heath to interview him, and they're in the car for like 40 minutes waiting for him to come out, and there's Michael Clifford tells a story, and he was writing for Scandinavian Hammers at the time, and he's interviewing Paolo, and he's at the training ground, and all he can hear is, I think the actual team were playing away. He wasn't picked; it was a cup game or something like that. All we could hear is just the Paolo Di Canio song,
Yeah.
just like being whistled, and for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then out comes Paolo with like a towel. It was Paolo singing his own fucking song. We've had like coming out the shower with like his bronze body with like a towel wrapped around, just about to jump in the car. And sorry, I forgot about the interview. But he just a lovely bloke, and
That was,
obviously
that was a great song as well, the Di
it
Canio
was,
song.
it
Especially when you
was.
take it up to Liverpool and we can sing "We've got Di Canio, you've got our stereos." I think was one of the better renditions of that.
And I remember I went to Liverpool one game, and we had. It's funny how things just pop in your head when we talk about, and it was we were playing. I think we drew 2-2. I think Gavin Hooligan. Do you remember Gavin Hooligan? I think he scored. I think he scored for us, and the guy next to me was well pissed up, and he was singing those type of songs. He was singing, we got Trevor Sinclair. You're stuck on the welfare. We've got Joe Cole. You're stuck on the dole. And he went, we've got Frank Lampard. And you just saw his brain. You could hear the little mouse. And I've just got a new Ferrari. That was it. It was like you've just completely dried up. Bless you, you've completely dried up. But no, yeah, Di Canio, like he was, yeah. I mean, he was my favourite player of all time. I think that Payet was technically the best player, but I think to be a proper West Ham player, you need that skill, but you need that nuttiness and you need that passion. And I don't think Payet had it or didn't show it where Di Canio did. When he would like that song would
I
be
definitely
like
did.
that song was like I don't know, sort of a computer game where like people's health is really really like going down and they find like a health pack, or that was Di Canio's song. It was like you could see his chest puffing out and that was it. Then he was ready to play, and I just loved him, absolutely loved him. Box office player. Right, okay, so Paolo's in, so you got one more spot, John. Who's gonna be?
Last one. Fortune's always hiding, right? That's West Ham in so
It
many
is.
ways, on the pitch, off the pitch. And so that's Dean Ashton for me as the
Yeah.
last one. And that is probably the most complete striker we've ever had. There was everything. He had everything in his game. He had passing, he had strength, he had enough pace, he had vision. He could knock him in from 30 yards, he could knock him in from 6 yards. He had absolutely everything, and I was didn't get to fulfill his entire potential. I think not only for West Ham but for England.
Definitely.
What a player he could have been. And if that injury hadn't happened, I mean, realistically, we would have had a very hard time keeping him away from
Yeah,
the Man
yeah.
United to the world. But while we did have him, you just, again, he's another one of those players where you just have that feeling if he's around, you got a chance because he could always get something. He was always in the right place, so he was always laying off the ball in the right areas. Just again, another really phenomenal talent that wish we'd seen more of,
Oh,
unfortunately. But
definitely. Yeah.
but when he was on, he was on. So
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And you're right. He was like, he's probably the most complete forward I've ever seen at West Ham. You're probably likely to see, to be honest, because he could do it all, wasn't he? He was tall enough to hold it up. He's tall enough to beat defenders to headers. He had a little bit of turn of pace to beat them. He had a shot, he had a touch. It was a shame, as you said, for England particularly, as well. He was the partner that could have partnered with Wayne Rooney for many, many years, and probably at
yeah,
Man United as well, to be perfectly
probably
honest.
yeah,
As is the West Ham way, but it's he's brilliant. It was such a shame, wasn't it? And it's funny because I still, if I see anything with Sean Wright Phillips on, or anything, I still just like it's this irrational hatred of Sean Wright Phillips. It's not Paul Ince, it's not Jermaine Defoe, it's not Lampard, it's Sean Wright Phillips. It's SWP is the one I hate the most, and I would it's just like, it's so silly, isn't it? It's like it's such a West Ham thing as well. Like the smallest player to play for England or something like that has hobbled our star striker and
yeah.
cut short his career. Bless him, but no,
Sod's law.
yeah, sod's law as is the West Ham way. John, man, it's been wicked. It's been lovely chatting to you, bud. It's
Thank
been
you.
really, really fun.
Been great on here. Yeah, let me chuck in. I just want to chuck in a manager as well. So
Go
I'll
on then.
stick H on there, Russ,
Oh,
because
you
I
got
got
to.
two reasons. One, growing up, my neighbour was his best mate from school, and they used to go down Cheltenham races together. So I have a Cheltenham races program signed by Harry, which is
Oh, there
lovely.
you go.
And two, just my fondest memories, I think, of being a West Ham supporter. There was so much excitement and belief around that team, and it was. I hope we can have something similar soon, because kids that are what I can't even put it into words. Kids that are in that age range now of what I was when Harry was around.
Yeah.
If they all had a bit of that in their lives around West Ham, we'd certainly have no problems retaining any supporters, or branching out and getting more in our catchment areas. I think he gave us so much, and that team gave us so much and so many fond memories that they'll last a lifetime. So yeah, H is my manager.
Yeah.
But
No,
no,
it's
Russ, been great. Honestly, this been a
no,
lot of
yeah.
fun. So
It's been good fun. Yeah, 58 minutes almost has flown by, hasn't it? Without
it
really
does.
blinking. That's what I love about this show. You go, oh, I've only been at 20 minutes. 58 minutes, fucking hell. But no, it's been brilliant, John. Thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to talk to the American Hammers guys, because it's just lovely. It's just nice talking to people outside of Essex and London based this morning.
Oh, we got to get you on Friday Night Lights sometime. So I know you're a night
Yes,
owl. We'll get you on there, and
definitely,
it's a
definitely, yes,
fun show. So if
of
anybody
course.
hasn't seen it, make sure to jump over to our network and give it a go.
Good
So
shout, definitely, and obviously subscribe to the Hammers, the American Hammers Network. Lee and Tim and everyone over there, great stuff, and obviously John's Friday Night Likes and stuff, and it's all good stuff, and I love it, because it always makes me laugh that there's a lot of English blokes and girls who do most of the American Hammer stuff, which always makes me
yeah,
laugh. But it is what it is. But God bless Charlie and Tom and Becky and stuff like that.
we
But
get the night owls. That's what it is.
you get but it's all the young uns in it, because it's all like the youngsters who you can't sleep, or it's like me who's almost 40. Not quite yet. 39 next Friday. Anyone wants to buy a card? But yeah, it's sometimes it's because once the daughter's gone to bed, like the weekends, it's like Friday night's a good one for me. From then on, I'm done, because I'm getting ready for Monday morning. Then that's the trouble in the school run. But it is what it is anyway. 59 minutes now. But anyway, until. Anyway, John, thanks very much for your time, and obviously thanks to everyone for watching. If you've been watching on YouTube, or if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify, Apple podcasty thing, I think we're on Amazon as well. So yeah, try Alexa and see if Alexa will put on Miami's 11. I'm pretty sure she will now. But hope everyone is well. Take care. Stay safe, everybody. And for me and John, come on, you irons, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. See you later. Bye bye.